Just look down as 11:59. I like to go on just a touch early for those people that are waiting.
Yeah.
I'm keen to get in.
Sounds good.
And Chantelle, is it Brimmage? Brimmage?
Yep, Brimmage. Just like it looks.
I had a Rob join our lunch and learn last week, and it was, or last Monday, and it was LaJoy was how it looked, but it did not sound like that at all.
Joie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of French names and stuff. Are there people that have logged in? Not yet. Oh, I can't hear you.
Not yet. Sorry.
I'll see how many participants up on the top then, right?
Yeah, so I have panelists and attendees. You should see the participants coming in, joining the call.
Oh, and then you can click there and see who it is. Now, if I click that, can you see that on your screen right now, or you just see my PowerPoint presentation?
I'm just seeing your PowerPoint.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And I did give you co-host actually, so just to give you a little bit more control. And
I don't know what that does.
I can do this on my end, but that's kind of the function when you go over, kind of scroll over names, you can see kind of more functions there. So I'll take care of that.
Okay. And then sorry?
Oh, I was just going to go to the Zoom link and make sure there's nothing wrong with her.
Okay.
Troubleshoot, just in case.
And then in the off chance that no participants come, I just share this with you and then?
Yeah. Yeah, in that case, sharing the content, and if there's more to this content, maybe even going through it wouldn't be bad, because we can do this webinar and still deliver it.
Oh, okay.
We can still, I could cut it to like past our conversation point. You can go on, it would show just the just your video, and there wouldn't be obviously any questions from the group, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm just curious as to why no one's joining in the call. That's something that hasn't come up yet.
What's that?
That's something that hasn't come up yet for me. I'm not sure why it is, but it looks like it's enabled. The registration link is fine. Sorry, my cat. Let me just try this link. Let me give to another 4 minutes or so for people to join in, like 12:08. I think that's fair. And then we can just go on with the presentation, because you'd said it's 30 to 40 minutes. It's going to be a little less if there's no one coming in. I'm not sure why that is. I don't think it's a technical issue, but what I might do as a last effort is just send myself a registration link and try to join
Looks
in.
like there's someone
Oh.
attending.
Great. Hi, Lori. We have Lori Drinkwater on the call. We're just going to wait a few more minutes for more people to join us. And then we're going to start the presentation. Lori, we have a chat down below. You'll see an option to chat. You can, it'd be great if you could type your industry as well in the chat so we know where you're coming from. And maybe if there are questions that come up, then Chantelle could address them at the end. Megan Phillips is also on the call. We are working from home. Welcome. I might get, interior design, home staging, Lori Drinkwater. Thank you. And Megan Phillips, I think this is a familiar attendee from our session yesterday, but can you please write down your industry or company in the chat for Chantelle? Hi, okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started, and others can join in the presentation as we go. So welcome, happy Small Business Week. We're celebrating Small Business Week in St. Albert, and we've invited Chantelle Brimmage to join us. I'll give an intro to Chantelle. Chantelle is with Get Balance. She's been a St. Albert resident since 2007. She took accounting at Grant MacEwan University and has worked in the accounting field for over 25 years. She saw a gap in resources for small businesses between their offices and accountants. She also found accountants favored large corporations and often couldn't help with the smaller tasks some of the small businesses had. So Chantelle formed Get Balance Professional Bookkeeping in 2007 and has grown her company servicing St. Albert, Edmonton, and Northern Alberta. Her office is located in Campbell Business Park, and she has a staff of 4. Get Balance manages customers with startup, full service bookkeeping, payroll, GST, CRA, audits, and much more. So welcome, Chantelle. My name is Amanda. I'm with the City of St. Albert Economic Development Department, and we're happy to have Chantelle here with us today. I'll let you get started. I will also say, just housekeeping, if you have questions, Chantelle is happy to answer them at the end of her presentation. But please populate them in the chat if something comes up, and we can relay that to her at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm happy to be here today, and I wanted to thank Amanda and the City of St. Albert for asking me to do this presentation to small businesses in our area and in St. Albert, and basically on business cash flow. This year has been a very trying, difficult year for a lot of businesses. And so the City of St. Albert has asked me to share my ideas with how to manage cash flow in 2020 and beyond. So I thought we'd kind of talk about a few different things. There's 3 different categories that we need to look at, and one is our response, how to manage the immediate challenges to sustain our cash flow. We need to look at budgets to adjust to cut our expenses for a leaner operation, and focus on recovery, how to stay organized, finding financial support and our future projections so that we can keep working, we can keep our companies open, and that's the most important thing to ourselves. So we're going to start a little bit about going into managing immediate challenges to sustain cash flow. So right now, what a lot of small businesses are discovering is that there is a decrease in sales revenue. There's a decreased or a longer wait time for accounts receivables to be paid. We're seeing that we're not able to be able to pay vendors, landlords, mortgages, loans, etc. We've got these bills stacking up. What are we going to do about that? Our supplies costs have increased, or we're unable to access them. So we're having to source our supplies from different locations. And then there's these new costs associated with COVID-19, the shields, the masks, the cleaners, all these new things that we have to address to be able to open up our businesses. And then on top of everything, we still have to deal with payroll costs. So making sure that you understand what our immediate challenges are so that we can address each of them. So I did a little bit of research, and I've also taken what we know as small businesses. We've all experienced cash flow issues. It's just 2020 has made it a little bit more, a little bit harder to manage that cash flow. So I've seen it many, many times with startup businesses, or even when our economy has had some hiccups, that our cash flow, people are like asking me, how can I sustain my cash flow? How can I get cash into my company so that I can deal with this, so that I can grow my business? So these are same problems that small businesses had before. They're just kind of relaying now into 2020 a little bit more, and more small businesses are seeing this cash flow problem. So if we start with tackling the decrease in sales revenue, one of the things that I really enforce my clients to do is understand what your current sales revenue decrease is. A lot of times I hear clients saying, "Oh my gosh, 2020 has been horrible, and we're struggling. We've had a real decrease in sales revenues." But when I get them to actually look at how they were doing last year, in the same month, so if they compared, let's say, June last year to June this year, their sales weren't affected as much as they thought. So they were kind of putting a lot more pressure on themselves than really what was happening. They just felt that there's so much more, things are so different, that they felt that their companies were declining in revenue much more than they actually were. So make sure that you really understand that decrease, so that not to get yourself too worked up about it. And then see if there's a continual growth, or if you're still declining now that things are starting to open up and you're starting to get revenue back into your company. See if there's a trend, if that it is starting to grow, or if are you still fluctuating up and down. Know what the trend is right now, so that you can act upon it and make some predictions on that trend. Are you typically more busy during Christmas time? Are you more busy in the summertime? Look at those trends, look at what the growth is, or look at your decline. Make sure you just have it in your head that you really, really do know what that sales decline, or maybe the growth is there. And we're going to discuss this more in recovery. So I'm going to switch to the next screen, where we're going to start talking about how to tackle these immediate cash flow problems. So one of the things that I always talk to my clients about is decreased or longer wait times for your accounts receivable payments. So what does that mean? Any clients that you allow to pay you 30 days from now, 60 days from now, if they're having the challenges that you are in paying the bills, they're probably not paying you, or it's taking much, much longer to get that money into your bank. So if you don't have that money in your bank, you can't pay your payables. So some of the suggestions I give to my clients: know what your accounts receivables are at. Maybe talk to your clients and give them a discount for clearing up any old AR. A lot of times they're like, "Oh, you know what? That $100 discount is really, really what I needed. Thank you. I'll pay up my bill right away." Or set up a payment plan for older and larger accounts receivable. So it's better to have $1,000 in your bank account rather than nothing if you have a $5,000 accounts receivable waiting. So these are some ideas to really, really think about and have these open conversations with your clients. Another thing is to expedite your current accounts receivable. What that means is making your terms a little bit shorter. Due to COVID, we need to have more cash flow. If you usually have a net payable or a net receivable in 30 days, maybe you make it 15 days. Some of my clients have even said, I need you to pay immediately. And that is the trend. And if anybody who owns a small business understands that if I get my money, I can pay my payables. And if everybody worked in that same mindset, then the cash is there and everybody can be paid and our economy is a little bit better. And the last thing, and I hate making this suggestion, but sometimes we're our worst enemies by allowing customers to just continue to pack on the bills. So, oh yeah, I'll get you the cash tomorrow, but I really need this product, or I really need this service. Can you help me out this time? It's the time that you have to be strict with your clients, and you have to say, hey, you know what, we're in kind of a cash crunch right now. I can't do any more service for you, or I can't give you this product until you clean up some of your accounts receivable. So really focus on that. That is the biggest piece that will help with that cash flow, is really getting fine tuning into that accounts receivable. The next thing is, well, we have cash coming in, but we need to have cash going out because we need to pay our vendors, our landlords, our mortgages, our loans, and they're piling up. And what can we do to help with that, to ease that burden on our cash that's in the bank? So everybody should always know what you owe. Sometimes it's not as bad as we think. Again, just like I said, checking to see what your sales decline or revenue decline or profit has been, it's really important to know what you owe and what the terms are on each of those items that you owe. Some of our things like rent and mortgages, I mean, those are automatic payments that come out all the time, and they come out month to month, and that, and they're ready there. But there may be some other vendors that have their terms are 30 days, 60 days. Know what you owe, know when you owe it, and know what the terms are on it. If you go past the due dates, what are you going to owe more on? And so not to get you into a really bad predicament of having interest charges and then you're paying more than you really should be. So some of the ideas that I pass on to my clients are, try to see if you can extend any of your payables. Ask your terms to be longer. So if they right now are net 15 and you're going to be charged 2% after that, ask if you can extend it to 30 days. Ask if you can extend it to 90 days. A lot of times vendors are happy to provide you an extension because they then know when to expect your money, rather than you just kind of going silent and not paying the bill at all. Set up a payment plan for the older, larger accounts payables, somewhat as the same as receivables. If you have a really large debt with maybe a supplier, and say, you know what, I would like to give you $500 every 2 weeks to chisel that away, rather than, where am I going to get $5,000 to drop on this supplying bill? Or ask also for a discount on early payment, just like your customers. If you can give them a discount on them paying their bills, a little, the majority of your invoices being paid, same thing. The majority of the invoice you are giving to the money that you're giving to your vendor, they're not going to miss $15 if it's in their bank quicker. For your landlord, ask for a deferral of payments or a rent reduction. A lot of landlords are scrambling right now because people have moved their businesses out. A lot of people have found that they can do their work from home. So these landlords are being a little bit more flexible, as in, saying, yeah, if you're struggling, let's see what we can come up with, like a rent reduction for the time being until your revenue starts to increase. And then the last piece, and this is, I mean, this goes for personal or any small businesses, loans, credit cards, mortgages. Ask for a reduction on rates, ask for consolidation, ask for a deferral of principal payments and only pay interest. A bank, a lot of times is very, very eager to work with you to help you with these payments, and they would rather have their money than you declaring bankruptcy and not being and them not getting their money at all. So I find that a lot of times it's just a quick phone call and, you know, setting up a meeting and explaining your situation and just being honest and saying, I don't want to not pay these bills, but I just am struggling with it right now. What can you do for me? Um, I didn't put this in here, but CRA is a really, really good one. And I know when those big brown envelopes come from CRA, people get a little bit scared and they're like, oh, I don't want to open it up. I don't want to see what kind of interest I have to pay now. But a lot of times, if you just call the phone, call CRA and set up a payment plan, they will leave you alone. They, as long as they know that they're going to get their money eventually, they're happy to help you out. So these are some things to maybe take that pressure off your shoulders of, oh my God, like, how am I going to pay these bills today? How am I going to, you know, make ends meet up to the end of the week? How am I going to pay my employees? So really focus on trying to make arrangements and getting that extension and being able to pay those bills a little bit longer so that you have a little less pressure on you immediately. The next item that I wanted to talk about, these kind of blend together, but supplies costs have increased and you're unable to access these supplies. Some of them are coming from overseas and now you can't access any of these supplies at, you know, the great rates you used to get. And any new costs that you never anticipated before, like whoever thought you'd have to have shields up in your businesses or you'd have to supply masks for yourselves and your customers, or cleaners and hiring cleaners coming in your offices all the time, or whatever new kinds of expenses that you weren't used to are now popping up. So some of the really important things to do is talk to the suppliers, negotiate costs, say that, you know, before COVID, I was able to get these supplies from these vendors overseas for this much. Can you come close to that? And I'll stay with you after, you know, after this is over, or if things get a little bit back to normal. Find new local suppliers, local people. You're supporting our economy, perhaps saving in delivery as well, or duty charges from across the borders. And also, a lot of people don't realize and or tend to look at sales and brochures and what deals they have. Maybe on Mondays you get 20% off, and maybe right now you kind of have to do that. I call it coupon clipping, but it's not really, but looking for those deals to save money for your business. Some people have the misconception of, you know, oh, I can just, you know, buy from Staples whenever and not worry about sales because this is a business, the business is paying for it. But think of it as your own money, and look for those deals and purchase things from the places that are offering those deals to cut your expense costs down. Payroll costs, I'm going to talk about them in a couple different places, but there's programs available for payroll employers right now, and we'll talk about that in recovery. There's there's ways that you can use your payroll employees, and maybe you need to create new jobs for them, or use them in a different way than you have before. And we'll talk about that in budgets. And the biggest thing is maximizing your employees' work hours. A lot of times I see people that have a couple office staff and they're duplicating their work, or one person's just sitting there and they're looking at their phone for the large amount of time when they can be doing something else. So really focus on maximizing those employee hours. If you're, and that money that you're spending on those employees should be gold to you, and they should be working hard for that, because there's not many opportunities out there right now for employees. So make sure that they're doing, and make sure that you're getting what you pay for, is what I'm trying to say. So that gets us into the second step, is actually talking about budgets and starting to adjust your budget to cut expenses for a leaner operation. So when we have less cash flow, when we have a decline in revenue, we have to start looking at our budget and looking at the things that we've paid in the past that maybe we don't need, or we can do some adjustments and maybe pay for more in a different category, and pay less in something that you're spending money on that really isn't productive at all. So what I always do is I say, use your prior year information to create a comparable budget. So if you want your year to be typical as of last year, and I know that 2020 is a little bit different, but we'll just talk about how you make a budget. Take a look at what your revenues were, and if you were to have a comparable year, what your expenses were, and if you want to make more money, where are you going to do your cuts? What are some of the items that you really that aren't productive for you, that really maybe aren't things that you need to do, and maybe you're overspending in some luxuries for your company. In 2020, use your prior month's trends to create a leaner budget. So you know that your revenue is declining, let's say 10%, 20%, 50% in the past months, but now it's got a slow upswing. Start doing small little budgets. So maybe a projection for the next 3 months. You can see that your revenue is increasing a little bit, but it's still not where it was at last year. So if you have to take a 20% reduction that you have in revenue, then you're going to have to reduce that in your expenses. Some of the things you can't reduce, your rent, your mortgages. We did talk about ways to maybe trim that, but take a look at how much money are you spending on meals? What are you spending on marketing? What are you spending on, payroll? Payroll is one of our biggest costs. What are you spending on interest charges? And if you're spending a lot on interest, why? So again, because you're not making the due dates. So this is what we were talking about before. If you can extend some of those due dates and not have interest, then maybe you're saving a little bit money in your budget. So really evaluate your expenses and determine if they are necessities. A lot of people say, well, of course I need that to run my business, but really you're going to have to look at your budget with an open mind and say, okay, where can I really trim things back? Evaluate which expenses have worked for your business and which to reduce and which to eliminate. You might have an employee that's sitting there that's like, is really great on social media. So maybe instead of paying your advertising in your paper, maybe you get them to start posting some really cool things about your business and creating a new way of reaching out to your customers and clients. So it's just a shift of where you're spending your money and maybe making more use in another department. And then make sure you know what your commitments are for the year. So not just your monthly expenses, but your income taxes, your GST, your insurance, your land taxes. Now, any of those that you're late on, well, insurance, that's not even an option. But income taxes, GST, and land taxes, if you're late in paying those, the interest on them is insane. So really, really focus and save and make a little pocket of money that you need to save for that, so that you're not missing the due dates on that. Following a planned budget will save you money in the future, for sure. So a lot of times I will talk to a client and say, they're like, well, I just don't know where my money's going. And we'll do a financial analysis. and we take a look at their income statement, and I'm like, what did you spend, you know, $5,000 on meals and entertainment? Oh, well, we had a staff party, and you know what, we went out a few times here, and those are things that you really, really need to look at. Make sure you're looking at your income statement on a regular basis and really knowing where that money's being spent, because we often forget, oh, we spent $100 there a few weeks ago. We spent $100 here 2 days ago, but you often forget about that. But once you see it down on paper, it comes to light really quickly where your money's going. The next step is recovery. So after you've looked at a budget, you've taken some ideas about how to trim up what you're spending, the money going out of your bank. Here's some tips about staying organized, finding financial support, and your future projections. How do we get ourselves out of the mess that we're in right now? Or how can we start looking to the future and, hey, I want my company to start making money now. I want to see that the revenues increasing. So one of the most important things that I know a lot of clients don't do, or a lot of small businesses don't have time to do, is staying organized with your books. Keeping all your business receipts and documents in one location so you have them. Put them into a software, a spreadsheet, get a bookkeeper. It really, really helps you in the long run. And the reason is that you know, as of today, where your money's at. If people just kind of left it in their brain that, yeah, you know, I think I know how much revenue I have. I think I know how much I spent on meals and entertainment. I think I know how much I spent on advertising, but they're really, really shocked when you actually compile everything and take a look at it. Track your expenses and income regularly. Very important. Follow your budgets and reassess if needed. So if you're finding that you're following your budget and it's just the cash is not there, you're going to have to reassess and start removing some items. Make sure that all your GST income tax credits, so those are the GST that you're spending on supplies, on all of your expenses, that all of those are captured, because that's going to save money when it comes time to pay your GST. Know and meet all of your filing deadlines. And filing, I mean GST remittances and your income tax filing, your payroll remittances. You miss it by a day, there is failure to file, and there is interest tacked onto it. And know those deadlines, because it will save you interest in the long run. A failure to file GST can be up to $500, $600, $700 if you don't file it on time. Missing your deadlines incurs penalties and interest, and that costs more than having someone do your books for you. And I always say, anybody who I've taken on that, you know, their books weren't kept up to date and they were missing a lot of their due dates, a lot of the times the penalties and interest surpassed any kind of bill that we've given them. And now they're compliant, and now they get their refunds from the government when they're supposed to, and they're not paying interest and penalties. Being organized and up to date saves you money for sure. That way you're not forgetting expenses. Your accounting fees aren't up high because you're just handing them over a whole bunch of stuff in a shoebox, asking them to do it, and you're saving on penalties and interest. The next way of dealing with this and being able to recover from what we've dealt with in the past 6 months is finding some financial support through different organizations. And so one of the big ones right now is CRA. I mean, CRA has helped out individuals, but now what's available is that there is a new Canada rent subsidy. It's not, you can't apply for it just yet, but it is going to, before they came out with a rent subsidy, but it was all controlled by landlords. And it was quite in depth, and a lot of landlords didn't want to deal with the paperwork or the tracking of expenses. And so the people who suffered were the tenants, and they weren't able to capture any deals or any subsidies or get some kind of help with their rent. So now CRA has just released this new Canada Rent Subsidy, and it will provide a simple and easy access to rent and mortgage support until June of 2021. So of course, it's going to be somewhat like applying for the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. As of yesterday, when I was on the CRA website, it was still not, the legislation hadn't been created, so it's still not available, but it's something to keep your eye on, and check the sites. I'm sure that you'll hear all about it once it has been released. The other thing that's been really great, and I've seen a lot of my clients really succeed and be very helpful to their businesses, is the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. If you have had any type of revenue decline and you have payroll employees, make sure you understand that you can apply for this subsidy. It's not anything that you have to pay back. It does need to be declared as income. However, it is so helpful. It can pay up to 75% of your employees' wages, up to $847 per week. It was first released, it was in the summer, but it was for April, May, June, and July. But now they have extended it, and it's based on kind of a percentage of what your revenue decline, or even if your revenue is going up, you can still qualify for it. So make sure you understand that. And if you have a bookkeeper and accountant, that they are helping you, or they're applying for this on your behalf. And then, the last is, there was a Canada Emergency Business Account that was available to small businesses. And it's an interest-free, well, it is a loan of $40,000 with up to 10,000 of it being forgivable if you have it paid up by December 31st, 2021, not this December. But now they've expanded it. So now the loan is $60,000 with $20,000 forgivable if paid by December 31st, 2021. So again, that was a program that CRA has released, but it was one that you needed to apply through your bank. So I know that a lot of different banks had release dates. They were staggered all throughout the month. So check if you have gotten the $40,000 loan, check with your bank to see if you qualify for an extended amount. And if you haven't applied for it, take a look and see if you can apply for it and if you qualify. The next thing that I wanted to talk about for financial support, and just some quick ideas for everyone, is talk to your banks for loans, lines of credit. The government of Alberta has a small and medium enterprise relaunch grant, and it's up to $5,000. This is 100% not having to be paid back. So it is a grant. It's like a subsidy. It's a one-time an amount, and it's up to $5,000 depending on what your decline in revenue was. And there's a few different criteria. You yourself need to apply for it through your business account. And then the Business Development Bank of Canada as well has a few different programs, and go to their website, take a look. There's so many different opportunities for different types of groups, different industries as well. So don't think that there's no help out there for small businesses. And this is my last slide for the day. I just want to talk a little bit about some ideas of how do you increase sales revenue. Sometimes we get so focused on what I owe, what customers owe me, and we don't think outside the box, or we don't think about what other kind of products or other ideas of raising your revenue. So think outside the box, think of different ways that your organization might be able to create revenue. We're all entrepreneurs. We all had an idea, and that's why we have a small business. But sometimes you might not think of something else that a customer might be needing. Reach out to your clients and say, hey, is there anything that I'm lacking in my like customer offering that you would like me to give you, deliver to you? Are there things that you're looking for from my company? Um, your best your best supply of information is from your clients, because they'll tell you, oh, hey, I really would have liked to see this kind of product, or could you get something, for kids? Maybe you sell clothing and you've only, reached out to the women. Maybe you need to reach out to men and children. Maybe you need to have other kind of products. So just some ideas. A lot of financial advisors, or the economic groups have been saying that in this pandemic, that you might want to concentrate on the items that really do give you true revenue, that you do make a profit on. Sometimes we have so many offerings, and some of them we kind of lose money on. Maybe you don't offer those right now, and only focus on the ones that truly make you money. Just like I walked into a restaurant to order takeout, and they had their whole dining room closed off, and they were just serving takeout. And I think while I was waiting for my food, 8 skipped the dishes and Uber drivers came in and grabbed those foods. So they thought outside the box. They've closed their dining room, and they've basically are making all their money through these skip the dishes and Uber driving type of companies. Networking and referrals are so important to your company. Make sure that you are part of a referral group or a networking group that really gets your name out. If you have a client that really enjoyed your service or your products, ask them to be your advocate. Ask, give them maybe a reduction in costs, or give them a discount in a product for raising awareness, because they will attack a different group of people that you might have just been reaching out to a small little group. The more and more people that talk about your product, the more and more people that will know about you. So really make sure that you are part of a good networking group. And then get creative in your marketing and approach to a new demographic, because we can get pigeonholed in only talking to or promoting our businesses to a certain group that you would think are interested. But if you think outside the box and maybe make a new, like I said before, a new item or a new product that might bring in a whole new demographic, that will raise your sales revenue for sure. So these are a lot of different ideas. I've thrown a lot of things out to you. I hope some of these ideas have put a little light bulb in your head. I know that 2020 has been a struggle for everyone, and maybe your business has been even better, but there's still some struggles with some of the new costs that are associated with COVID. But really, just the most important thing is get a handle on the money in, money out, and knowing where you're at, and just trying to stabilize and be informative about where your company is at. Because a lot of times I think a lot of people really don't know where their company is financially, and that is more stressful than actually knowing you know what your profit's at right now. So that being said, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'll throw it over to you, Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. Does anyone in the group here have any questions? I think you have the ability to raise your hand and I can let you speak that way, or you can write them down in the chat bar. But I will kick it off. I just wrote down a few questions as you were speaking. You had said under making some predictions on trends, so sales trends. And if you maybe haven't been in business for very long, or considering that last year's trends may not mean, may not really reflect what this year is going to be, are there any other resources on sales trends that you could use, maybe to help project sales for what's coming?
Um, like I said, right now, because things are changing every day. We were talking offline before, and with kids coming home from school and people having to shuffle their businesses and having to work from home again. I mean, things are so unpredictable. We have no idea what normal is going to be and if there will be ever again a normal. But what I'm talking about with trends is your current trend or what the trend has been in the past month, 2 months. So if you take a look and say, okay, since July, what of my sales or what is my revenue telling me? And I can see that, my revenue really dropped, but right now, I'm on a trend of maybe increasing every 5% every month. Then you should know that, okay, people are starting to come out, people are starting to welcome people into their homes for services. We're starting to go out to the store a little bit more, we're shopping a little bit more, we're not doing so much online buying. And with Christmas coming up, maybe you can just take the what's happened in the past couple months and create your own trend and know what that trend is happening. So now you say, okay, I think in the next 2 months, this is, I can still see the incline. And I know I've been always busy before in December. Christmas is a busy month. Maybe you're a hairdressing salon or, a small gift shop, and you know that your sales are going to increase. So project for that, and really, like, you've seen the increase of sales, then know that that's probably going to go up as well. But you're going to have to take the trends of what's happened in the past couple months and your trends from last year and kind of come up with an idea of what your sales are going to be.
No, that makes sense. I do have a question in the chat from Lori Drinkwater.
Okay.
She says, thinking about doing a pop-up store again this year, but nervous about no one coming to the mall. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Lori, for your question. It's so hard to answer a question about that because a pop-up store is rent. It's a lot of expenses that in this time might be expenses that you don't want to take on right now. And maybe what about having a virtual pop-up store? Having something online so you're not incurring the big expense of having to rent a space out and the utilities and having to employ someone that's in the pop-up store, but rather hitting your market a different way, because then you're actually capturing the people that aren't going to the malls and you're getting a broader client base than just the few people that are in the mall. And to be honest, I was in the mall on a Saturday afternoon. London Drugs is really busy, but walking through the mall, I went to 2 different stores, and it was sad because it wasn't busy at all. I think I would talk to the mall, see what kind of incentives they have for the renters, the tenants that are there. What are they doing for you to get the customers into the mall? So you're going to have to weigh out, did I make that much money last year in a pop-up store? Or do you think I can do that virtually and get to a good client base that maybe all those people aren't in the mall now.
Lori mentioned that she does have an online store, but hasn't talked to many people about it very much yet. And I think I'm seeing a lot of these online stores popping up, and a lot of people going to virtual sales, and like in this pandemic as a change, as a pivot. And we just saw the city of Edmonton. I think they're creating a lot of online stores for these businesses that don't have them yet. But I think St. Albert is the city of St. Albert's looking for ways we can support also virtual stores, whether that's marketing, helping market or support them. So maybe if we can connect, Lori, we can see how we could help you. But I would leverage, just speaking for city of St. Albert, I would leverage a lot of the communications that are out there through the city of St. Albert. The programs that we have. I know farmers markets closed. I'm not sure on your product, Lori, but if we can connect offline, then maybe we can talk about ways we can leverage what already maybe networks that are out there that can help get the word out about your online store and about your products. We unfortunately can't do a gift catalog this year. We were talking about that, but maybe next year we can look at gift catalog and getting your store featured in there. Any other questions? Megan's on the call as well. Thank you. I wanted to just ask while you're here, Chantelle, you mentioned knowing what you owe, and that's really important. You can lose track and lose sight of that so fast. And are there any helpful systems for, the early stage, or just, the small business that doesn't have a lot of resources? I know that you're a resource for that, but are there any systems for small businesses to keep track of these things, even at a high level?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different programs out there right now for small business companies. There's invoicing softwares. But one of the ones, and it's so funny because when I first started in this industry, I was only a Simply Accounting user and did not ever want to use QuickBooks at all. And leaps and bounds, the whole industry has changed, and a lot more of artificial intelligence. And what I mean by that is bank feeds coming into programs and just simplifying things for clients. So right now, the industry's best product out there for small business, I would say, is QuickBooks Online. It's a software you can run from your telephone, from your iPad, from any kind of device, and it's app driven. And it's also, if you're more comfortable with a PC, you link up your bank account, so all of your expenses are immediately tagged into your program. It takes a little bit of setup and like I said, artificial intelligence. If you see pretty much all the time purchase from this one vendor all your supplies for your store, then as soon as it sees that vendor, it automatically does the posting into supplies. And so more and more as it gets used to the transactions that you do, it basically does the bookkeeping in the background. And then, so a lot of people say, well, why do you support it, Chantelle? Because doesn't that put you out of your job? Well, people need us to maintain it. People need us to set it up. People need us. They still people just want people to do things. But for a user that's in a small business and wants to do, have a handle on what are they spending their money on, QuickBooks Online is a really great tool. I know that there's a tool called Wave. I don't use it, so I can't support it in any way, but I know that I've had a few clients that have used their accounts. That works too. And I know that there's some budgeting softwares out there that just kind of attach to your bank account that will split out expenses for you as well. And if you're a small enough business that, I only make, about 5 or 6 transactions a month, those are some of the smaller tools that will help you just still see where are you spending your money, where can you make cuts and make the differences you need to.
That's great. That's good. Good takeaways. And thank you so much for being here with us today. We will be sending the slides out to everyone. And if you have any questions that maybe you wrote down or couldn't, or come up with questions later, you can send them to Chantelle. I'll put her contact in the email I send out. So thank you for joining us and happy Small Business Week.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda, again for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.